Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Vanguard. Got a couple day break in there for the holidays. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, holiday season, whatever you may celebrate. Hope it was awesome. Hope you got to spend some time with your family. Hope that you weren't affected by this Omicron variant, which is ravaging the country. But we're going to be talking about that, the president's new guidelines, CDC, as well as some pretty juicy drama in between prominent commentators. As always, it's what you can expect here on the Vanguard. But welcome to the stream, guys. Hope everyone is well. How's it going, Zach?
Super stoked to be back, dude. It's always a little bit different after coming back from a live show, making sure that our audio was all back to back, making sure that everything was good to go. We had so many fucking issues. It felt like our last show before the break that I just wanted to make sure that we came back strong, came back, knocked it out of the park. So super excited to get back at it. Had a nice break, recharged the batteries, got to see the family, all that jazz. But yeah, super excited to break in. As always, though, we do need to shout out the patrons to get our show rocking and rolling.
Yeah, 100%. A huge shout out to our patron community, keeping the Vanguard alive, keeping us going. If you want to support the Vanguard on Patreon, that link is in the description. And we do like to start and end our live streams by giving a big shout out to our patron community. So if you'd like a spot up here on the patron board, I can't think of a higher honor than that, the Vanguard Patreon board. But yeah, if you would like your spot of your own, in addition to access to our other benefits, you can hit up that link in the description. And coming this next month, we're going to be rolling out our patron exclusive call-in hangout session. So on a monthly basis, we're going to be doing a bit of a hangout sesh with our patron community. Super fun way to get to know you guys even better. And for everyone else, we're going to just do regular weekly call-in segments that anyone can tune into. It just won't be the exclusive hangout patron or exclusive hangout unless you're the patron monthly. So lots of cool stuff. We also have our monthly Q&A coming up the day after tomorrow. We're going to be doing that. So if you're a patron already, then make sure to send us in a question. I'll be posting that notice on Patreon as I do every month. So just make sure to hit that up if you're a patron already. And if you're not, and you would like to ask us a long form question, whatever it may be, you can send us in your diatribe or your dissertation on how wrong we are about everything. Then that's a great way to do it. Always a really fun time. And like I said, that'll be coming up probably on December 30th. So lots of good stuff coming for the patrons. Always like to shout them out, as I said at the beginning and end of every live stream and in the end of all of our videos in the credits section. So yeah, pretty great stuff there. If you guys would like to throw us a couple bucks, support the show on a monthly basis, it really genuinely helps out. I can't stress enough just how much it really does help our channel survive, especially in these tough times when it comes to being a political commentator. It's kind of like ups and downs because we have election season. Every 4 years everyone starts tuning into politics again, everyone starts giving a shit again, and then in the interim the attention just really falls off. People just kind of tune out of politics, which is understandable because it's depressing and it's hopeless and all that stuff. But yeah, it definitely helps in those times when there's not a lot going on, when there's not a lot of stuff to talk about in the political arena. It really does help us out. So thanks. Just a huge, sincere shout out to our patron community. Can't stress enough how much it means to us. And I already see a super chat in from Das Bosch the Fleisch. Thank you so much, sir. A few days ago, I watched the NASA live stream of the Webb telescope launch. Over 400,000 live viewers. Want to have views? Launch the van into space. LOL. That's a great tweet. And yeah, I actually watched some of that myself too. It's pretty crazy. This Webb telescope. Actually, I forget the exact statistics, but it's going to be like 100 times better than the what's it called, the Hubble telescope, I believe is what it's called. It's going to be like easily the best telescope in space that we are going to have. I think it's like the size of like a tennis court, just the lens. Could you imagine a telescope that big? Anyway, pretty cool shit.
Yeah, Das Bosch Fleisch. I'm actually concerned that you're an op now. Elon Musk launched a Tesla into outer space. I'm not sure what kind of blueprint you're following over there, son, but I'm skeptical of you. Think you might be in with the U.S. government. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, the NASA shit was really cool. I also saw some of it, not a lot of it, but that's one of the things that sucks is like the privatization of space and exploration. And I get that in the 60s, there was a big push against NASA funding in the space race because it was 100% driven by Cold War propaganda, proving ourselves against Russia. One of the I actually watched this Agnes Varda documentary about the Black Panthers. And at one point, somebody gets asked about the space shuttle program. and they're basically just like, fuck a space shuttle program. People are hungry in these streets. And it's like, that's really hard to argue with, right? But there's no way to deny the fact that, you know, if we structured our priorities properly, we could both, you know, take care of every single person in our country and on our planet while still, you know, gazing up at the wonder of space, the, you know, vastness of it all, and, you know, where our place in this universe is. It's very humbling. You understand that your life, you know, really isn't shit compared to all of what's going on out there. I think that that's good for humankind. And I think that's a, you know, a valid and worthwhile pursuit. You know, in a specific capacity that's not just like, how do we maximally extract from like meteorites, or how do we like have a space force and like, you know, claim fucking space out there. Like, space is supposed to be the last frontier where we all like bring our hands together and say like, okay, we fucked it up on Earth. We need to learn from our mistakes here and like never continue that when we go into the cosmos. That's the whole point of like an international space station. Even the most nefarious warmongering fucks decided that, yeah, we can have an international space station for science. So it's like, if even they can go that far, like how far could, you know, real empathetic, you know, people, and that's not to take a shit on people who were astronauts. I'm just talking about the US policymakers that approved the budgets for all this shit. You know, but anyway, yeah, thanks for the super chat. Sorry to go off on a little bit of a tangent, but I agree. You know, it would be cool if we actually had a real, you know, socialist forward space exploration program, like real Star Trek kind of energy.
Yeah, let's get some Star Trek happening, guys. Yeah, shout out to the great Agnes Varda. And yeah, speaking of the, you know, humbling nature of the cosmos and all that, have you ever heard the Carl Sagan like pale blue dot spiel? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. That shit is like truly beautiful. Like I listen to that like every year just to remind me of his greatness and yeah, the humbling nature of our tiny, you know, speck of dust in the cosmos that is Earth. But yeah, we're totally going on a fucking
I'm not even
rampage here.
Going on that tangent though, I'm pretty sure that Carl Sagan used to like to take mushrooms.
That literally would not surprise me at all, given how deep some of his thoughts were on stuff like that. Sounds like he's experienced ego death a few times himself.
Yeah, I remember. I'm pretty sure there's this Michael Pollan book that my sister bought me for Christmas like 5 years ago when it was all the rage, that I read like maybe half of. I won't lie and said I finished it, but I read like 150 pages. And one of the things that he talks about in the history of mushrooms is I believe the fact that Carl Sagan was like a fan of doing them like once every year or so.
Yeah, that sounds like about an appropriate amount of time to do mushrooms, about once every year. Anyway, yeah, that's interesting. It definitely wouldn't surprise me. Like I said, you know, the pale blue dot speech in particular, you know, it has that ego death all over it that, you know, yeah, exactly. But to get into today's topics, we do have a lot of stuff to go over. Is there anything in particular we should start with, Zach? We have a pretty heaping platter of topics and subject matter to discuss today. A lot of good stuff. Like I said, some of this COVID, CDC stuff, Biden basically just giving up as a president, and you know, his response to COVID, all that.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and start with the medicine, you know, before we get to all the more tantalizing shit that everybody's in here to watch us comment on and all that kind of shit. This is the more important stuff because it really reveals a sad but honestly predictable truth that I think that I have to, like, you know, take some shame potion, you know, for not catching on soon enough. I really wanted to believe, and this is, you know, not in a delusional way, but I wanted to believe that Joe Biden was at least semi more competent than Donald Trump was when it came to handling COVID-19. I wanted to believe the chorus of people who were telling us that this was a miserable failure, that this was a bungling of epic proportions, which it was. It was. Those things were all true. But they were also following that up with, we can do better if you put us in charge. And clearly they can't, because Joe Biden's just come out and said he's going to follow the exact same policy as Donald Trump did, which is fucking nothing. And he also didn't say anything about any more stimulus checks, which I know is going to be a refrain from people who are on the fence about voting for Democrats. You know, it's going to rear their head like, hey, Donald Trump gave us more money and you still didn't do fucking anything. Like, we didn't get $600 a week under Joe Biden. We didn't get fucking shit like that under Joe Biden. We got one stimulus check that was less, that he shortchanged us on. We were promised $2,000. We didn't get $2,000. You know what I mean? It was bullshit. So anyway, yeah, what are your thoughts on that? You obviously didn't vote for this nefarious fucker, so you have less shame potion. But what did you think this at all? Like, am I alone on that island?
Absolutely not. No. And even as someone that didn't vote for Joe Biden, yeah, of course I expected his COVID response to be superior to Donald Trump's, the bumbling fucking idiot that was out there, downplaying the pandemic for the first, couple months and saying this is nothing to worry about, guys, and completely downplaying it for so long, even denying it at points, only to finally kind of get his shit together. And, Operation Warp Speed obviously was a success, and he continues to tout the efficacy of those vaccines. And yeah, more money in the pocket. Where the fuck is our $600, Joe Biden? And what's with this new variant? Shouldn't a new variant equal a new stimulus check? Seems logical to me, especially with everyone having to call in sick to work. And not only would it help the employees, it would help the employers too that are having to close down their businesses because of the mass call outs. It would easily help contain the spread, because as it is, we have businesses that are forcing their employees to come to work even though they're sick, or maybe their roommate is sick. Just anecdotally, I've heard some stuff like that. My roommate was sick and my boss told me to just shut up about it and come into work anyway. It's like, how the fuck do you think this shit is spreading? That's how it's spreading. Of course it is. It's not just people that are having big parties and stuff. No, it's also employers that are forcing sick people to come into work, or people that, haven't had the opportunity or resources to get tested. It's hard to get a test if you're a working class person living paycheck to paycheck. It takes time out of your day, especially if you're living in a big city like New York. The lines are fucking 4 hours, and sometimes you don't even get your results back for 60 hours or something absolutely insane. I mean, by the time 60 hours go by, you could have been infected all over again. So it's absolute madness, and yeah, an incompetence from the executive branch that I never would have expected in this realm, especially with how the Democrats campaigned on science and we're the serious people, and we're going to take this seriously and get help to the American people. Yeah, bullshit, dude. You haven't done absolutely anything. And before we get to this breaking story as far as the CDC, I did want to shout out Hysteric Raider. Thank you, Hysteric Raider. Going back to the Star Trek, it took a giant deadly war before humanity got their shit together in Star Trek. Well, I hate to break it to you, but we've had several giant deadly wars here on Earth, and yeah, no communist utopia yet. So I don't know if that's a good idea to accelerate us into Star Trek, but yeah, for sure, Hysteric Raider, and thank you for the comment and super chat.
Yeah, and just to jump in, anecdotally, right, like the bar that I nominally work out occasionally, there's only like 4 people that work there, right? There's like 4 people and then the people that own it. And I got a text this morning or yesterday saying that one of those people had tested positive, so they weren't going to be able to come in for the week. And then the next morning, you find out that the other person who had been around them working all week also tested positive, so they can't come in for the week. So then you either have a business that's a small business not making a lot of money during COVID, right? Like fuck capitalism, but small businesses, like, we nominally want to stay open because they're way better than like chains and shit, right? And it's a very, very, very small business. And, so they either have to make the ethical decision where it's like, okay, my employees aren't coming into work, so like we canceled the New Year's Eve party, which is a big revenue generator for small bars and stuff like that. Like, this is a big deal because it takes a hit on the business as far as like them staying open, but it also takes a hit on all the bartenders, everybody that was going to be working there, somebody working the door. You're not getting the massive amount of tips that people normally leave on like a New Year's Eve kind of a night. For people who rely on that money, this is a big L. So you have that extra incentive as an employee to just suck it up, because it's not like the government says, hey, if you get COVID, we'll send you, and you test positive and you have to quarantine, here's like $1,000 or something to make up your lost wages for your 5 days off fucking work. You know what I mean? There's nothing built into the system like that. That should have been obvious protocol for the Democrats if they wanted people to get back to work safely. But there's nothing like that built in the system. So it just continues to perpetuate this cycle. You either, go broke and fuck up your finances being, responsible and not trying to spread this disease, or, what people would call sucking it up and going to work, but it's really just, perpetuating the crises. And it's not on the shoulders of any of the people that are doing that. This is a national policy failure. I think that's the one thing we need to always remember. But I'll stop yammering and we can watch this clip.
Yeah, do we have a clip? I was just gonna show this article, but
yeah, we do.
Look.
Hey, Joe, what's the federal solution for how we're going to solve COVID?
Look, there is no federal solution. Look, there is no federal solution. This gets solved at a state level. Look, there is no.
What are you talking about, Jack?
This gets solved at a state level. Look,
This
there
gets
is no
solved at a
federal
state level. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely fucking pathetic. Remember when we were all told that this guy was like FDR 2.0? What a fucking joke, man. What an absolute fucking joke. And we can take a look here as well. Let me pull this up. As far as the CDC goes, a lot of people have been pointing out that their new guideline is absolutely just a massive giveaway to the business community, to the corporate America community that obviously wants their workers to be working, you know, despite the consequences. Consequences be damned, capital over everything. And then that's exactly why the CDC is cutting the isolation period in half, which is completely pseudoscientific, by the way. People need at least 10 days if they are symptomatic or if they have COVID-19 to, you know, get it all out of their system so they can go back to work, so they can go back into society without infecting their peers. But obviously the CDC is only having this, again, to keep the economy remotely alive. Businesses need their employees back, and they're going to do that at the expense of the public health. And the CDC is basically just allowing them to do that with no consequence, which again is insane given how Biden and the Democrats campaigned on being this the administration that believes science and, you know, we believe science, all that bullshit. But yeah, this is totally crazy. It says the CDC on Monday shortened the recommended isolation time for people infected with COVID-19 from 10 days to 5 if they are asymptomatic. The CDC says the updated guidance is keeping with growing evidence that people with the coronavirus are most infectious in 2 days before and 3 days after symptoms develop. The announcement came as the nation is contending with a new coronavirus wave driven by the highly transmissible Omicron variant, the AP reported. So what was your reaction to this particular news, Zach?
I mean, look, it's so fucking hysterical because it just shows how there is absolutely no ethics at any level of anything, anywhere in the media, in the government, and any level of politics. Look, this is the kind of shit they were calling fascist, suicidal, fucking death cult squad kind of hysterics under Donald Trump's presidency, right? And that's because it was, right? People were dying in droves. This is not an overreaction. This wasn't like a, hey, let's just suck it up and go outside anyway. No, that was a terrible idea because that would have killed even more people. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people died. The blueprint for how to solve this has been there since day fucking one. Okay, all we need to do is pay people to stay at home, pay people to you know, have their income, you know, furlough workers, split it with the cost of the employers if they're a conglomerate, you know, give a little extra help to small businesses that can't afford to eat that kind of thing. You know, other countries did this. Other countries had less deaths than the United States. I'm thinking, you know, South Korea did a way better job than we did. Taiwan did a way better job than we did. You know, off the top of my head, right? Europe fucked it up a lot, considering how many, you know, social benefits they normally have. There were a lot of like COVID hotspots in Europe. So, you know, not necessarily that, but they still did better than us. I'm just saying there was a lot that could have been done. And the fact that Joe Biden is doing even less than Donald Trump and there's not the hysterics around it. Like if you go to The Guardian, if you go to Politico, if you go to New York Times, if it was Donald Trump, it would be like 10 fucking articles about how Donald Trump says states have to fucking fend for themselves. Donald Trump abandons his post as federal leader. Like, you know, Donald Trump wants middle America to die. Like, you know, whatever, right? Those would be the headlines. And those things could be nominally true. But what you're not seeing is those headlines about Joe Biden. Why does he not have this? Why does he not bear the same responsibility? Why is him saying, like, you don't need to wear a mask outside? Like, let's let small businesses decide. Let's let this keep fucking, you know, what's it called? More mutating. I wanted to say variating, but that's not the correct term. That keeps happening because there's no federal fucking sweeping regulation, right? Which means that there's always going to be a handful of dumbass states with governors like ours, like Mike Parsons, who's like, fuck it, you don't have to wear a mask anywhere in this goddamn state. Same with next door in Kansas, and they have a Democratic governor, Laura Kelly. So without a sweeping federal policy and a firm leadership and a clear message, even now that might be impossible considering how much they bungled and fucked it up. Yeah, it's just absolutely pathetic. And I think it's probably worse than Trump. You know, that is what it is.
Yeah, totally pathetic. Also, the lack of testing is just total insanity. By the time these free tests get out to the American people, Omicron might be behind us, right? Like the time when they were needed has passed. That was over the holidays. That was during Christmas. That's when the tests needed to be in people's hands, and they weren't. So, complete failure on behalf of the Biden administration, which is why he's out here saying, "Oh, there's nothing the federal government can do anyway. Just we have to leave it up to the states," trying to deflect all blame. Absolutely fucking pathetic. But let's move on to our next story. Did want to talk a little bit about this. We do cover breaking points quite a bit. Big fans of Crystal Ball and Saagar and Jetty's commentary. I think they do a really good job. But one interesting fact about Saagar and Jetty in particular is that he actually used to work for Tucker Carlson over at Fox News before working at The Hill and then going independent with Crystal and making breaking points. So yeah, Tucker Carlson is his former boss. And I think Tucker, gave a pull quote for the front of their book cover saying like, this book is awesome when they published that book a couple years ago. They clearly have a bit of a, close relationship. I don't know if I would go so far as to say that they're friends necessarily. I don't know, but definitely, close professional relationship. Anyway, for that reason, I found it interesting that they actually did a segment. They usually stay pretty quiet on him when he says something completely ridiculous, but recently they did discuss Tucker, in particular this clip that was going around from his show, and I thought this was really interesting, and I have to give props to them for calling this out. But yeah, let's take a look at this video. Have you seen this yet, Zach? Gotcha. Yeah. Well, let's take a look at this. Again, I thought this was pretty interesting. Discussing Tucker Carlson's fake anti-war values, essentially, and kind of the guests he has on. Let's take a look and we can discuss the substance.
Never let it be said that we don't keep an eye over on Fox News for some bonker stuff in order to show you. This one particularly caught my eye. Jesse Kelly, a conservative commentator, appearing on Tucker Carlson's show to describe some of his problems with the U.S. military. Let's take a listen.
Well, what we're watching is the destruction of the U.S. military, and what we're going to end up seeing, Tucker, is thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Americans die. Those are the stakes of the game we're playing here. We don't need a military that's woman-friendly. We don't need a military that's gay-friendly, with all due respect to the Air Force. We need a military that's flat-out hostile. We need a military full of type A men who want to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls. But we don't have that now. We can't even get women off of naval vessels. That should be step one, but most of them are already pregnant anyway.
Throne of Chinese skulls. Look, I mean, I've been accused of being some warmonger or whatever. That's what it actually looks like, just by the way. Speaking this way is incredibly irresponsible. I probably even agree with Jesse that wokeness in the U.S. military is a huge problem, and that social justice and all this stuff at the expense of a war fighting.
Yeah, the problem with our military is the wokeness. That's the problem with our military. It's too fucking woke, guys. It's too gay friendly. Forget the imperialism shit. It's too woman friendly, bro. The naval bases are just chock full.
Women are just shitting out children everywhere. It's a fucking disaster.
Force that is actually capable of winning a war is actually terrible, detrimental, and more. But speaking this way shows a real bloodthirst, which I personally find disgusting. Nobody should wish war upon anyone, because, by the way, to construct a throne of Chinese skulls would also require a lot of American skulls too, as you can see in any conflict where U.S. has ever been engaged in. I don't think anybody should.
Yeah, to construct a throne of Chinese skulls would probably mean death for us fucking all. Something that's not talked about enough is war with China basically means World War III, and I do not like our odds as far as surviving a World War III, at least as far as, the majority of the population. If you don't want to live in like a Mad Max style dystopia, probably shouldn't open that fucking can of worms, probably shouldn't go to war with China at all, which of course always makes me think of Marianne Williamson's great idea to have a Department of Peace instead of a Department of Defense. It makes so much more sense to solve things diplomatically than through brute fucking force and savagery. But that's another question. Anyway, it's just insane that the conversation over on Fox News, and we'll watch some more of this Breaking Points clip, but it's insane that the conversation at Fox News is like, we have to be so much more savage and hostile as an army, as if we're not already like by far the biggest military in the world, bigger than the next like 7 countries or more combined. But no, we're still not savage and brutal and hostile enough to take on China and, mount the throne of Chinese skulls. When again, to do that in the first place would most likely result in, the destruction of many, many millions of people, if not the entire, human fucking race. I'm not even kidding. Nuclear war is no joke in the modern era. But let's take a little bit more of this in.
One more quick thing. I wonder if they were inspired to do this segment after they saw how viciously pro-Chinese war with China their fucking audience was. They put out that poll. It was like, should we go to war with China over Taiwan? And like 56 to 58, my memory isn't perfect, said 100% we should go. And like 18% were like, yeah, I'll wait to be convinced, but I think I'm ready to go. That was the unsure crowd. So yeah, I'm wondering if they're like, hey guys, like, you know, this is what real warmongering looks like. I don't know. I don't like any kind of warmongering, and you don't have to be campaigning to sit on a crown of Chinese skulls to be warmongering. But anyway, let's hear them out.
Be pushing this type of rhetoric, and actually, in my opinion, it only makes social justice and stuff more likely by behaving like such an idiot on national television that they can point to and say, see, these are the people who are opposing this. So there's a lot to be said around that, and I actually do think it is important to be very responsible in terms of speaking around the way that we should have a military, to what purpose, and more. So look, I know Jesse himself served, so like I guess he has a right to say whatever he wants, maybe even more so than me. But I found this personally a very gross segment.
Thirsting for Chinese
I think it's very,
like,
very disgusting.
Not only blood,
right.
I mean, that's like outright genocidal. It's disgusting to want. And to your point, listen, even if you don't give a shit about the Chinese citizens who would suffer and die in that conflict, which you 1,000,000% should, how many of our soldiers died in the unnecessary wars in the Middle East? How many of them were injured? How many of their lives were turned upside down?
Yeah,
how many are struggling with suicide and depression because of the things that they had to do, the things that they saw, the things that they had to, you know, experience? So this casual desire for war with China, it really is a kind of mask off moment. One of the things that I hate the most about the current right, one of them is, you know, just the like total fealty to Trump, and like, you know, the only litmus test that really matters is how absurd you're willing to debase yourself around Stop This Deal. The other one is how they just throw out the term woke with regards to absolutely everything without actually justifying it. Like, listen, I am, you know, considered anti-woke. I think the fact that oftentimes these sort of like identitarian, hollow identity politics are used to be like, isn't the CIA amazing? Or isn't the military-industrial complex amazing? Like, effectively the meme of the plane dropping bombs, like, but you put the rainbow flag on it, like, oh, and a woman's a pilot. That's great. So I have my issues with wokeness, and especially the sort of off-putting academic language that is really counterproductive to actually building some sort of multiracial working class progressive project. But it gets thrown around as an excuse for absolutely everything, again, with no justification. So like they said that the Build Back Better bill, their problem with it was woke. It's like, what? I mean, and it doesn't even have to be analyzed or, you know, laid out the arguments that they make. So it also irritates me, this whole like, there are a lot of critiques you can make of the military. And if there is a specific social justice thing that you think is distracting, they're like, dig into that. That's fine. We can have that conversation. But it's just thrown around in such a blanket way as to become utterly meaninless. Yeah, no, it's actually also a good point. It is meaningless. If this is what the modern right is, count me out. You know, count me out, brothers. You're
in
not
terms
down
of
for the throne of Chinese
throne
skulls.
Of Chinese skulls. I just want us actually to live in, you know, general peace. Also maintain some of our prosperity and integrity here at home. That's a whole other conversation. You know, this type of stuff doesn't help anybody. And I do think it's important, because if that is the type of stuff that gets mainstreamed to a lot of people, not good.
Yeah,
that's what justified the war on terror for a long time, which I would remind Jesse and a lot of other people on the right, the rhetoric spins around real quick, doesn't it? Whenever it starts to get targeted on you post January 6th. So, you know, try and at least speak from a point of principle and make it so that in the future, this type of stuff won't come against you, because, you know, 2005, it was real easy to go on and beat your chest about jihad. And now what? Right? Yeah. It's all been turned against you.
That's it. Very good point. Very good point. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll have more for you later. Hey, guys. Thanks so much for watching.
Yeah, pretty fucking nuts, man. Anti-war Tucker Carlson, there for you. Mr. Pro-peace, America first. I don't believe in war anymore, except for when it was really popular to believe in war, and not when it wasn't that popular to believe in war. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna be adding that guy to my list of people to take seriously for sure. I have one more pretty salacious story to get to after this, Gavin, unless you had any final thoughts on the man himself.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, obviously, it's a good thing they covered that and did call out that insane warmongering language, which is casually being tossed around on Fox News, let's go to war with China. That's a great idea. Why not? Let's just manufacture consent for a fucking World War III. That's a great idea. So, obviously it's a good thing that they called him out. Breaking Points is an influential platform, the biggest, political podcasting platform, according to some estimations, I think on Apple and Spotify, perhaps. I know that at one point they even surpassed the Pod Save America shit. So that's, it is an influential platform, and it's a good thing they called him out. But yeah, just total mask off moment for Tucker Carlson there, not even at all pushing back on that. Someone who pretends to be anti-war, someone that pretends to have anti-imperialist and populist values, just nodding along to that in utter fealty to some fucking deranged lunatic right-winger on his show. So yeah, I think it totally exposes that, and was just a totally embarrassing moment in general. But yeah, I certainly hope that Breaking Points, especially after that poll came out, kind of considers their coverage on China, because even though there are issues in China, we're not one of the podcasts that's just going to simp for the fucking Chinese government as if they don't do anything wrong or problematic. That being said, there's still no reason to go to war with them, not over Taiwan, not over literally anything. So that's always important to stress. And yeah, that should be if you're an anti-war person, then that should probably be your biggest concern right now, is the mounting escalation with China. Again, two nuclear armed superpowers going to war with each other is a disastrous situation for the entire world, for the entire species, that cannot be stressed enough. And with climate change and the pandemic already ravaging us, nuclear goddamn war is literally the last thing we should have to be worrying about right now. So perhaps we should stop fucking escalating with the other global superpower that happens to have nukes. Maybe a good idea. But yeah, we can move on to this next story if you're ready, Zach. I saw this the other day. Thought it was pretty humorous. Hasan, obviously biggest streamer in the political space, definitely on Twitch, recently got banned for saying cracker, but he's reinstated, at least on Twitch. Anyway, it looks like Vaush is trying to start some beef, as I mentioned earlier in the stream. For us political streamers, there's definitely down times when it comes to news and politics, when there's just not a lot going on in the realm of electoralism or politics in general, at least nothing that's very interesting to talk about, nothing that's very sexy to talk about. And oftentimes in these instances, you'll see streamers such as Vaush and, to be fair, even ourselves sometimes, trying to fill that dead airtime with starting some good old-fashioned beef. It's what's for dinner. And a lot of people enjoy watching it. But that being said, I did think it was interesting the way that Vaush's audience responded to this segment. So I want to take a little bit of a look at it. We don't have to watch the whole thing, but I thought it was especially interesting how Vaush's audience responded to this attempt to start a beef with Hasan. So yeah, we'll get into all that and more in a second. Did want to shout out the super chat though. Would be worth you guys researching China's policy measures on poverty reduction, climate change, and COVID? Feel free to invite Danny Haifong. Well, thank you so much for the comment. Ritzy20, really appreciate that. Yeah, Danny Haifong definitely has some good work. And yeah, there's no doubt that in certain areas, such as like their transportation infrastructure, and their COVID response, yeah, China's definitely a lot far superior to the United States. But then there's other issues, like, for example, their massive crackdowns on free speech, which, yeah, I do find very problematic. And I'm not going to lie about that. I would probably rather be living here, to be completely honest. So,
well, yeah, that, and also the poverty reduction thing is super like fucking and cut you off, Gavin, but just to say the poverty reduction thing, like, just to some quick simple math for everybody. If everybody was getting paid so well in China, and they were able to afford their livelihood and everything in a way that was comparable to the Western world, we wouldn't constantly exploit them for their labor, or American oligarchic companies wouldn't constantly exploit these workers massively. And so there's just a bit of a disconnect there between saying that poverty's been eliminated in China, maybe in this abstract sense where, like, nobody's dying on the streets from hunger. And again, like, we're not experts on this, but you have to be able to do some math and be like, I don't think they've eliminated poverty in a place where United States corporations are literally outsourcing the production of massive numbers of goods because it's so infinitely cheaper there, and the regulations there are so infinitely lower. So yeah, I understand China's definitely doing good things, in the sense that Gavin mentioned, kind of like in the same way that all countries do some good things, but all countries also do bad things. So it's one of those things where, we're not China experts. And, in the old Noam Chomsky fashion, we do try and focus mostly on what the fuck is happening here. But that being said, we're not trying to lead the like tanky simp brigade here at the Vanguard. I'm sorry.
Well, I got some good CIA talking points from Zach over here. Damn, bro. Falling right into the hands of the CIA once again. No, I'm just kidding. But you're absolutely correct. And yeah, I'm sure there's some, decent social policies in China. In fact, I know there are. But yeah, why do you think so many giant multinational corporations outsource all of their labor to China? Not just China, but a lot of them do. It's because they can get away with, paying workers very little and exploiting the hell out of them in sweatshop conditions. So yeah, not exactly a utopia for workers necessarily either. But yeah, nothing is worth going to war with them. That's the most important point. That being said, let's get back to this Hasan v. Vaush beef in the making. Apparently, Hasan called Vaush a liberal and said he was further to the left than Vaush.
Based Hasan? Question mark.
Yeah. Let's see. Anyway, Vaush did not take kindly to this and has now declared war. So let's take a look at this video. And then again, I'm particularly interested in the way his audience actually responded to this. We'll take a look at that too. But yeah, let's take a look here. Definitely interesting stuff. Definitely some juicy drama. Let's take a look.
A tragedy that I was alerted to, a betrayal of unprecedented proportions when I saw this tweet. If you can believe it, Hasan called Vaush a liberal and said Vaush is to the right of him. LMAO. I know what you're thinking. Surely they jest. I've got bad news for you. I actually have no idea whether or not they jest because I haven't seen the video clip. I haven't seen it. I tweeted about it as though I had seen it, but I haven't actually seen it, This is me being consistent on Twitter, okay? I never read the article or watch the clip before tweeting about it. So let's find out together, okay? The streams, this is where disinformation comes to die. Let's find out together whether or not noted liberal Hasan is dragging me down into the dirt with him. Let's go.
Breaking news, trigger warning, small brain pro-CIA Vaush advocates for the torture of Julian Assange in a sad attempt to hurt those who support him. Wait, what? Is Vaush an advocate for the CIA?
The top of the hour ad break.
No, right? I feel like I can't bring up Vaush on the stream without people who fucking absolutely stan him saying that's not true and not really giving me true information or not. But then more importantly, people who fucking hate him and despise him being like, yeah, he does love the CIA. All bread to
Actually, this is inaccurate. People who like me and people who dislike me will both say that I support the CIA. That's the thing that makes my fan community special, okay? There's actually no way to tell the difference between people who like me or dislike me online because they say the exact same thing, just with varying degrees of deliberate irony.
CIA and actually support populists to push against fascist leftists on the internet. You are a tool of the State Department to stop Tucker Carlson from bringing about socialism with American characteristics.
Probably. There we go.
He did the same bit you just did? Oh, really? What is it? Don't know much, but the tankies are 100% sure he is for some reason.
Aw.
Okay, Vaush is not fucking CIA, okay? He's just, just call him a liberal. That's what isn't that what the normal term was? Just like we used to call everybody liberals. And now we're just like fucking saying and CIA was for, some of the fucking MLs, the ultra tankies.
By the way, just to cut in, he's absolutely right there. I remember back when liberal was just a word just used to describe like someone that was far left. You know what I'm saying? Like back when like we were younger during like the George Bush years, like liberal kind of meant what progressive meant when, Bernie was running, and now progressive, just like the word liberal, has been watered down and kind of just means like, the do nothing Democratic elite. But anyway, it is funny the way that words have changed over the years. And at one point, liberal, even to someone like me, was not an insult. It was like a, proud badge. I called myself a liberal at one point. But now the meaning of the word seems to have really shifted to the point where I would never identify as a liberal. And at this point, I don't even really like identifying as a progressive because, again, so many politicians have co-opted that language in order to make themselves seem more based than they actually are. But yeah, definitely interesting, tidbit there as far as the word liberal goes. I can't disagree with him.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, my dad still uses it as a term to describe somebody with like my politics. You know what I mean?
Yeah. These goddamn liberals.
Straight up sound like the fucking meme of being like.
I think this is actually true. I think it used to be that the tankies and like the people aligned with them would just say like liberal at everyone. but liberal doesn't hit as hard as it used to. So now they've gone up to like federal agent, CIA stuff, because the left has always made jokes about people in their midst being like feds or whatever, because I think a lot of radical groups do that. I mean, the Nazis do it, you know, so that's always been kind of funny. But I think that the discourse has shifted. I mean, I think we have a debate with this guy coming up in like 3 days or something, but there were people on Twitter who literally thought that I was an informant for the feds because I said I was an informant in Antifa, like all of us have been, or something. Like I think more people are taking the line quite a bit further than they used.
By the way, yeah, obviously Vaush was joking in that instance. And just as a note, I am fucking sick of this from both sides. Fucking people on the synthetic left, if you want to call it that, calling people, you know, anti-imperialist types, calling them fucking Russian agents. And, oh, you're bought off by the Russian government, or you're a Chinese spy or something. It's so fucking dumb. And then on the other side, if you want to call it the fucking the dumb left, calling people in the synthetic left, oh, you're a fucking CIA op, bro, you're a fucking informant. It's just so fucking exhausting and stupid and dumb. Like, no, can we just like argue about our ideas and, you know, hash out our disagreements without resorting to baseless smears? Like when Aaron Mate was accused by Anna Kasparian of being on the Russian payroll and being a stooge for the Kremlin, I thought we were coming together against that in principle. Like, yeah, this is no evidence for this claim. It's a completely baseless assertion. It's a smear. And I think that goes both ways. You know, if you're going to smear someone as a CIA agent with no evidence, that's just as bad, in my opinion. And in principle, we should, again, just be debating the ideas on their merits. Unless real evidence emerges of a conflict of interest, it really just bogs down the conversation and embarrasses everyone to start, you know, throwing around these dumb accusations. And it's just so fucking tiring too. I'm so fucking sick of it. It's just so lazy.
Oh, 100%, dude. And yeah, it's the exact same thing. It's like that reverse Russiagate, right? It's like, you know, saying somebody's paid by the Russians when you don't have evidence for it. It's just a cheap way of saying, I don't want to argue with you about this specific policy anymore. I disagree with you, and now I can put you in a box where you're no longer worth discussing. It's honestly like that old SJW tactic where it's like, this person is like dead to me forever, so I won't even bother to argue with them. I'm not going to talk to this problematic person. You know, and that presents itself all over. You know, you can trace that back to the old Amish country, right, where you would just get shunned from the entire community if they didn't want to deal with you. Well, I don't think that's the most healthy way to fucking deal with societal issues. I think we should, you know, engage in discourse. That's why I'm such a hard-ass free speech advocate. I don't think we should give up on that, because I think that's the one thing that we have that distinguishes us from fucking animals. It's our ability to articulate ourselves and share with one another and empathize and all those kinds of things that you do through dialogue and discourse. Yeah, it just completely takes away the possibility for that, and just label somebody with, again, an unproven smear that's pretty sticky, you know, at least online, in some capacities, you know, in the same way that like any other kind of you know, online presence picks up their one thing and then, you know, runs with it. I don't know. It's so lazy.
Yeah, and obviously if there ever actually was evidence that emerged that someone was on the payroll of a fucking, you know, government like Russia or the United States or anything, obviously we'd be the first to cover that, and that would be a crazy story. But until any such evidence emerges about any of these involved commentators or, you know, characters, and no, I'm not going to resort to fucking baseless smears. It's so goddamn dumb. But yeah, let's take a little bit more of this in before I get to the comments.
To be prepared for his gray zone day. I don't think that Hasan is a tanky or whatever. I do think that Hasan does definitely lean into the like America bad, therefore like my foreign policy takes are motivated first and foremost by a dislike of America, and second by a sort of general understanding of the geopolitical situation given area. I disagree with his shit on Taiwan. I don't know what his takes are on the Ukraine situation, but
all right, so yeah, just to jump in here real quick, Hasan's entire perspective is just America bad. It's like, yeah, dude, I mean, he's an American citizen, first of all. So yeah, his you know, political opinions are going to be centered around the country that he's a citizen of. Also, pretty sure Hasan's family is from the Middle East. I don't want to speak incorrectly here, but I know that most of his family, or at least a significant portion of his family, still lives in the Middle East. And of course, as a result, he probably, you know, heard a lot about and saw the destruction of our foreign policy during his formative years, the Bush administration's wars in the Middle East. How could that not, you know, make you, you know, form your perspective about how America is, you know, one of the biggest, most imperialist, militaristic forces for bad in the entire, you know, world, if not the absolute worst? It is. So, you know, I just think it's dumb for Vaush to be like, he's just a simplistic thinker. And I don't even love Hasan, to be fair. I'm not trying to defend the dude's politics necessarily. I have a lot of disagreements with him myself. But I do think that's kind of dumb to just reduce someone's anti-imperialist politics down to U.S. bad, everywhere else good. Like, I don't think Hasan, if you asked him, would say that China's a socialist utopia. I don't think that's the page he's on. He's just saying that, yeah, maybe we shouldn't fucking get involved with the Taiwan situation. Maybe we shouldn't be escalating by spreading potentially false information about what this government is doing that will in fact lead to military escalation. I think that's a pretty smart and, yes, principled anti-imperialist position. And if Vaush wants to counter with, well, China is doing imperialism itself in Taiwan, yeah, that may be true, but our intervention is definitely not going to make things better for the people of Taiwan or for anyone anywhere. So, that's very important. It needs to be said too. And I just think, Vaush's whole approach to foreign policy is definitely one of his weak spots. The guy has a lot of intelligent things to say on certain issues. There's no doubt. But when it comes to foreign policies and his, defense of U.S. intervention, I do think it's pretty fucking gross. And I can't lie also that his joke, even though I guess it was a joke about Assange, was in poor taste and pretty disgusting given all of the actual heroism that Assange has done and the truths that he has exposed about our imperialism and our military, which Vaush likes to defend. So, I can't exactly disagree with that. But what I am interested in, or what I did think was very interesting, was the comments on this video, because again, it's very clear that Vaush is trying to sow drama, start some discourse with Hasan, and maybe get on his radar, start some beef, etc. But let's take a look at the comments here, because I thought this was pretty interesting. Most people are actually against this drama happening. This comment, one of the top comments, says, "I hope this fake drama doesn't become real drama." And then someone else says, "Vaush and Hasan are doing this annoying dance-off, talking about each other, making assumptions, and then leaving it at that. Like, it seems so dumb to me not to try to have a conversation together about this stuff like this. I get if Hasan doesn't want to turn it into a debate, but I feel like Vaush would accommodate that, and if it meant having Hasan on his stream, right? I know, I don't care. It's just really frustrating how they talk about each other without talking with each other." And there's a lot more, comments like that. This commenter says, "Can you two stop acting like y'all hate each other and do a collaboration already?
Would y'all just fuck already?"
Right. I lose hope in humanity a little when people can't determine a joke when they hear one. Yeah. So, I thought this was pretty interesting because, again, mostly the YouTube audience, especially like Vaush's audience, big debate bro energy, they like to see those beefs happen. They like to see the clash of personalities. But in this instance, a lot of people are kind of just seeing through Vaush's attempts to start a drama here, to start beef. And they're just kind of like, dude, like, this isn't a serious thing to start beef over. Obviously, Hasan was mostly joking, and he wasn't even necessarily calling Vaush a liberal. He was just saying, back in the day, we just would have called this guy a liberal. Now it's stupid that, people have to resort to these smear tactics. So I actually think what he said was totally sensible, and it wasn't actually a smear of Vaush. And obviously this is all done in somewhat in jest. I get that. But I did think it was just interesting that a lot of people are not really down for this. And they're just kind of like, why are you trying to do this? Why are you trying to sow discord? And, it's an interesting, it's an interesting perspective from the audience. Again, not one that I necessarily expected, but it's definitely interesting that most people at this point are just kind of like, let's move on from that shit. Let's, work together and try to get things done and focus on, hashing out our disagreements in a serious and civil way. So I think that's, something we can all learn from, and maybe a misperception on behalf of content creators, maybe even ourselves sometimes, that people prefer to see the blood sports versus the more constructive conversations. That being said, if you look at Vaush's recent clips, you can see why he did this. It's the highest viewed of his videos in a while, it looks like, going through his channel. It's not since 11 days ago, or I guess 8 days ago, he has a video with this many views, and it's only going to keep growing. So you can see that the YouTube algorithm definitely rewards this kind of content too, this drama kind of content, which is why a lot of people make it. So, just some interesting observations on the YouTube landscape and what in particular Vaush's community thought about this potential beef, but, still interesting stuff to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. And always a little bit, reassuring to somebody who gets cynical about all that kind of stuff. The fact that, you worry that you have to wrap everything in that blood sport or you won't be able to reach people. So, always good to get a little bit of an alternative perspective, learn something from the YouTube comment section, who'd have thunk. But was that the last story that we have for the day? Cool. Well, the conversation does not fucking stop, people. For anybody who is interested in sort of getting around this YouTube monopolistic fucking oligarchy. YouTube's just Google in disguise, right? We have been privileged enough to get a new show launched on the Call-In platform. Exclusive audio podcast of the Vanguard. We'll be doing a live show just as soon as we're done here on the Vanguard. So if you haven't done so already, download the Call-In app and you can get in the conversation, talk to us, shoot the shit about whatever. We're going to be talking about Biden's miserable fucking failures, roasting the man like chestnuts over an open fire. We'll also be talking about the new David Sirota, Adam McKay movie, Don't Look Up, a little bit. Gavin and I saw that movie a little while back, but now that it's on Netflix, it feels like it's really dominating the conversation. So it'll be fun to talk about that guy. So yeah, if you guys have any shit you want to talk about, any questions, Q&A, feel free to holler at us if you join us live on Call-In. But we'll end this with a huge shout out to our patrons, the people who make our world go round, our Vanguardians and comrades. Of course, you're all comrades to us. If you hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. But other than that, we will see you, hopefully chat with you. You won't have to look at us, but you'll get to hear our voices when you chat with us on Call-In. We really like it. We're super excited, and it's great to have a two-way dialogue with everybody listening. So we hope to catch you guys over there.
Yeah, guys, make sure to download that Call-In app if you haven't already. Right now, it's just for iPhones, rolling out the Android here very shortly. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to continue the conversation over there. And the cool thing about Call-In, if you aren't aware, is that much like the title would suggest, you can call in. So if you want to talk to us, hash out your own disagreements with us, maybe start a little bit of beef on your own, that would be a good way to do it. Again, we really like engaging with our audience and hearing out what you guys have to say, engaging, with you guys. So really looking forward to that. Head over to Call-In for the rest of the show. That's where we'll be for the next 45 minutes or so. But yeah, we'll see you guys there. Peace out.